All right, you lovely lot. Emily Bennett here, and today we're diving headfirst into The Big Short, the film that made the 2008 financial crisis as gripping as a crime thriller. Now, if you've seen it, you'll know that the ending is a proper shocker. But if you haven't, let me give you a little tease to keep you hooked until the end. Imagine this: a handful of misfit outsiders, all looking at the market and saying, "Hold on, this whole thing's gonna blow." But here's the twist. It's not the banks or the government that sees it coming. It's these guys, oddballs, analysts, hedge fund managers, betting against the entire system. And guess what? They win. But do they really win? Stick with me, because there's more to this story than just money. Now, I've got a personal story to throw in here too. Back in the early 2000s, when James and I were just starting out, we had no idea about mortgages, credit swaps, or any of the madness going on behind the scenes. But after watching The Big Short, let me tell you, it all started making sense, and it's got some life-changing lessons. So, let's crack on with the real deal behind The Big Short, the lessons we can all take away, and why understanding markets better than everyone else can make, or break, your future. What went wrong? The truth behind the 2008 crisis. Let's kick things off with a quick breakdown of the 2008 financial crisis. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great, another lecture on economics. But trust me, this is where things get juicy. The banks were lending out money left, right, and center, basically handing out mortgages to anyone who asked without checking if they could pay it back. It was like a big game of Jenga, with dodgy loans stacking higher and higher. Now, here's the thing. Everyone thought these loans were safe bets. The banks, the investors, even the government. But behind the scenes, there were cracks everywhere. And when those cracks finally gave way, boom! The whole system collapsed like a house of cards. Back in the day, James and I nearly bought a house with one of those too-good-to-be-true mortgage deals. Dodged a bullet there, didn't we? But millions didn't. And the twist is, the very people who saw the collapse coming are the ones no one listened to. The outsiders, the people who saw it coming. Right, so now let's talk about the misfits, the stars of The Big Short. We've got Michael Burry, played by Christian Bale, a hedge fund manager who's a bit of an oddball genius. Then there's Mark Baum, played by Steve Carell, who's always ranting about how broken the system is. And finally, Jared Vanette, played by Ryan Gosling, the slick Wall Street insider with a sharp tongue. These guys were looking at the market, and where everyone else saw gold, they saw rubbish. Burry was one of the first to figure out that the housing market was built on a foundation of junk loans. He was laughed out of rooms. People called him crazy. But what did he do? He bet against the market, literally shorting the housing market, hence the name, The Big Short. Can you imagine that? Betting on the entire market crashing and burning while everyone else is celebrating record profits? Talk about having guts. The risk and the reward, betting against the system. Here's the kicker. These guys weren't playing it safe. They put their careers, their money, and their reputations on the line to bet against the entire financial system. And here's where the lesson hits home. Understanding markets better than everyone else can either make you or break you. Let me tell you a story. James and I were thinking of investing in stocks years ago, just after the dot-com bubble burst. We were clueless. Thought it was all about buying low, selling high, right? Turns out, there's a lot more to it than that. We lost a good chunk of change because we didn't know how to spot the warning signs. And that's what makes the guys in The Big Short different. They saw the signs no one else wanted to see. But it wasn't just about being right. They had to hold their nerve, while the rest of the world thought they were mad. And when it all came crashing down, yeah, they made millions. But they weren't exactly celebrating. When winning doesn't feel like winning. This is where the story takes a darker twist. They were right, sure, but it didn't feel like victory. You see, the collapse wasn't just a Wall Street problem. It wrecked people's lives. Millions lost their homes, their jobs, their futures. And even though the misfits made a fortune, the system they bet against was the same one that was supposed to protect ordinary people. And here's the real kicker. After all that, the system didn't really change. The banks got bailed out, the big guys stayed rich, and the little guys? Well, you know how it went. The misfits knew they were walking away with their pockets full, but the cost was enormous. It's a harsh reminder that while you can win the financial game, the ripple effects of these crashes hit real people, people like you and me. The lesson: knowledge is power. So what's the takeaway from all this? Well, the biggest lesson of The Big Short is that knowledge is power. And I don't mean just knowing what's in your bank account. It's about understanding the system, learning how markets work, and, most importantly, knowing when something doesn't add up. Back when James and I nearly signed on to that dodgy mortgage deal, if we'd had just a bit more understanding of the system, we'd have spotted the red flags earlier. And that's exactly what the guys in The Big Short did. They saw the cracks in the system, and they weren't afraid to bet on the truth, even when no one else believed them. The reality of markets: always keep an eye open. Now, I'm not saying you need to start shorting the market like Michael Burry, but it's a reminder that markets aren't these untouchable giants. They're just systems built by people, and like any system, they have flaws. You don't have to be a financial genius to start understanding how things work. And here's a little tip from me to you. Don't just go along with what everyone else is doing. Whether it's investing, buying a home, or even starting a business, take the time to learn the system. You'll be miles ahead of the game. Final thoughts. Be the outsider. So, to wrap things up, if there's one thing to take away from The Big Short, it's this: be willing to look at things differently. The guys in the film weren't afraid to challenge the system, to see the cracks when no one else would, and to take a risk on their understanding of the market. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always rewarding in the way they hoped, but they proved that thinking differently can be the key to success. So, whether you're navigating your personal finances, trying to get on the property ladder, or just thinking about where to invest, don't be afraid to question the status quo. Take the time to learn, and don't just follow the herd. Be the outsider who sees what others don't. And there you have it, folks. Lessons from The Big Short and the 2008 financial crisis. It's a wild ride, but one that's full of insight if you're willing to dig a little deeper. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had a moment where you questioned the system? And don't forget to subscribe for more cheeky insights into finance, business, and life's twists and turns. Cheers for watching, and remember, knowledge is power, so keep your eyes open and your mind sharp.